Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the very first members webinar of the Manifesting Lab. I can hear the cheers in the background. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much for indulging me in visiting a part of my reality as I am visiting a part of yours. Today, we are going to have some fun, I hope. We are also going to talk about some useful things. And the most useful thing I think we're going to talk about is this concept of deactivating current reality, which is why you're here, I presume. You're not here to listen to me talk about a lot of nonsense. However, a Manifesting Lab webinar would not be a Manifesting Lab webinar without a bit of nonsense. So here's a bit of nonsense. Here is something that I don't really know how to describe it, other than the title. What have these two pictures got to do with this webinar? Now, if anybody gets this right, I shall be firstly astounded, and secondly, I will give you a personalized star of the webinar gold badge to go with your forum account, because I will be truly stunned if you can answer this. I'm expecting nobody to get this, but you can have a go if you want. So we'll keep this going throughout the webinar because it'll keep you awake, because the rest of the webinar is so boring, because a subject like deactivating current reality, no one's remotely interested in that, are they? Apart from the fact that it's most possibly the most important skill for any deliberate manifester to master outside of feeling emotions themselves. So apart from that, I'm sure nobody has any interest in this webinar whatsoever. But just in case you're still awake, let's talk about this subject. Why does current reality matter? So what I'm going to do over the next however long it takes me to do this is explain to you my perspective on deactivating current reality. It may not be the ultimate perspective that there ever is or will ever be. It's my perspective, and I want to help you kind of get to grips with this subject. After this thing is over, I'll open up the lines, as they say, and we'll have a talk about any techniques you wish to share, any ideas that you're confused about, anything at all really to do with deactivating current reality. But before we do that, I should explain why this subject matters. The first reason this subject matters is because of this thing you have, and we all have it, and it's the ability to focus. And why is that important? Well, it's because as you focus, you create these things called thoughts. And as you create these things called thoughts, the strange and mysterious thing about thoughts is once they are created, they can never be uncreated. So every thought is eternal. So it's probably a good idea to be quite selective about which kinds of thoughts you want to associate with, because they last forever. You can never truly deactivate a thought. And let me give you an example of that. If I ask you to think of a pink elephant, you'll think of a pink elephant. Now, that pink elephant thought now exists forever, infinitely in the universe. You can never not destroy that thought about a pink elephant. So if I ask you not to think about a pink elephant, well, naturally you will think about it, because in telling you not to do it, I've made you think about it. But every time you think about pink elephant, it will reactivate that pink elephant thought. And now that there's one on the screen there, the chances are you will think of that picture. The idea is that focus creates your reality. Where you put your focus is what you get in life. And if you put your focus on current reality, that current reality can, in theory, last forever, because your thoughts are eternal. So the real battle of life, the reality creation battle of life, is the battle for dominance between current reality and you creating a different reality. And it's kind of the law of attraction is the referee in this boxing match. It's like current reality is fighting it out with future reality. But it's your focus that decides which one of those sides wins. In every moment of your life, in every milli moment, in every micro moment, you are recreating your universe. You are recreating it to be the same thing because all thoughts are eternal. If you do not shift your focus from a currently eternal thought, you will create a reality that lasts forever like it is. So if you want to change your reality, you must be able to shift your focus away from the current reality to some different eternal thoughts. However, it's interesting that when we talk about deactivating current reality, we're making an assumption. And to explain this assumption, let me tell you about the first rule of Fight Club. Now, Fight Club was this movie in the 1990s, and you may or may not have seen it, but there's a line from it that's quite famous. And the line is, the first rule of Fight Club is, you don't talk about Fight Club. And the second rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club. Now, I'm going to change that slightly, because if you like your current reality as it is, then the first rule of Current Reality Club is, you carry on talking about current reality. And the second rule of Current Reality Club is you carry on talking about current reality. In other words, why deactivate a current reality that you like? So you have to be selective about what you want to deactivate. If current reality is the way you want it, just talk about it endlessly. It'll just carry on and on and on because thoughts are eternal. But if you're in a current reality you don't like, then you have this interesting thing where the thing you want is not yet present. What you are dealing with is the absence of the thing you want. So when we talk about deactivating current reality, in effect, we're talking about neutralizing the absence of a future reality. Now, all of this absence present stuff is going to be discussed in the Ultimate Manifesting Framework course, which is going to be released very shortly. But for the purposes of this webinar, we're not going to talk in terms of absence and presence. We're just going to talk in terms of deactivating current reality. Now, what will you get from today's webinar if you manage to stay awake long enough? The first thing I hope you get is that you will no longer get sloppy with your current reality focus. I do not want you anymore, if you have done in the past, to be a focuser by default. What that means is that you only focus on the way things are in your life right now, and you make no effort to shift your focus towards something you want instead. So hopefully by the end of this webinar, you'll be more motivated with some tools even to start shifting that current reality focus towards something you want. Unless, of course, you are a member of the Current Reality Fight Club, in which case you will talk about Current Reality Fight Club. Next, as I said earlier, this is an interactive webinar. It's not a video. So the idea is that you can come on, talk to me afterwards. You can tell me this was a load of rubbish, and I will switch off my headphones at that point because my current reality doesn't include that. But just in case you manage to get on and speak to me, we will have a discussion. We'll deal with whatever problems you've got about current reality. And if you've got techniques to share, methods to share, please bring them up. I'm hoping that this webinar will be a valuable resource for you in the future looking back, and for other people even who come in the future and wonder, what on earth did we do for an hour? So you'll get out of this webinar whatever you bring to it. So please share your own techniques, your own ideas, your own stories, problems, whatever you want. But for now, let me start talking about my perspective on current reality. And this is my perspective. As you can tell, my reality is full of Strange people with strange faces and people with hammers. There is something I'm sure some of you who've read my writings over the years have noticed, and that is I have an unfortunate tendency to talk about hammers and heads. For some reason, that metaphor really appeals to me. I don't know why. I'm sure there's some deep psychological reason for it. But if we consider your current reality to be a hammer attached to somebody who has some ill intent towards you, and they are about to hit that hammer on your head, that's kind of what it feels like when you're in a current reality you do not want to be in. So that's quite a useful metaphor, actually, because when you are in a current reality you don't want to be in, it really does feel like you're being pounded. You're being pounded. It keeps reminding you that it's there. The hammer of current reality keeps making hammer-shaped holes in your head. So we are going to talk about what I think are the three main kind of solutions to this. There may be others, but let's make it simple. The first thing you do, if someone's hitting you over the head with a hammer, what's your first option? I would suggest it's to ignore them hitting you over the head with a hammer. That's not a terribly, not the best option in the world, because they're still hitting you over the head with it, but we will discuss shortly how it's still possible to live with that. The other thing we're going to discuss is your other option with this current reality person that's hitting you over the head, and that's you fight back. Now, that has some interesting consequences, and a lot of people like fighting current reality, and we will talk about that. And your third option, which is probably an option that makes more sense to me than the other two, but your opinion may differ, is to make peace with that person that's smashing you over the head. We will look into all of these.